My fellow South Africans, in the last 30 years of ANC government, we have moved from the magnificent promise of a rainbow nation to the halcyon days of the Mandela era, via the turbid waters of the Zuma years, emerging into the black hole of the Ramaphosa presidency. With each phase, our country became more impoverished, morally, socially, and financially. Poorly implemented policies, coupled with endemic corruption, have been instrumental in perpetuating poverty. Our education, health, and social development institutions are failing. Our SOEs are collapsing. Crime is out of control. Unemployment is escalating. And the energy crisis remains the overarching mother of all failures. Entrenched poverty is the ANC's legacy. And with the pervasive moral poverty that has beset the governing party and the ANC believes that they can lie to us and get away with it. A case in point is the ongoing lies about load shedding being on the verge of being resolved. Mr. President, you perpetuated this lie last week. Within hours of your promises, the country was plunged back into stage 4, and in less than 24 hours, we were back at stage 6. And while we continue to lurch between stages, Minister Ramaphosa insists that load shedding is pretty much resolved. But you and your comrades would not fully appreciate the gravity of this as you remain unaffected in your taxpayer-funded ministerial homes using taxpayer-funded generators fueled by taxpayer-funded diesel. No wonder Honourable Lucas doesn't think that load shedding is the end of the world. In January, Minister Ramaphosa informed the country that Eskom had made great strides and that energy availability had exceeded demand. What he omitted was that this was not as a result of Eskom's performance, but was actually due to a drop in demand, mainly attributable to private rooftop solar that was taking the pressure off the power utility. The reality was that Eskom was actually producing less electricity in January of 2024 than it had produced in January 2023 during stages 5 and 6 of load shedding. The ANC government has lied about the causes of the energy crisis. Unable to admit to their own ineptitude, short-sightedness and corruption, ANC Secretary-General Fikile Mbalula, the quintessential Pinocchio of politics, has blamed inter alia, state capture, the Just Energy Transition Programme, Andre de Ruyter, and most recently sabotage for causing load shedding. 26 years ago, the government was warned that there would be insufficient electricity to meet demand by 2007. They ignored the warning. Load shedding started in 2007 and is now a permanent fixture of our lives. And while the lies keep coming, the energy crisis is systematically destroying our economy, with the cost of load shedding for 2023 estimated to have been around 1.6 trillion rand. But load shedding does not just have a direct financial cost. There are other impacts that cannot be as easily assessed and measured. The corner car wash that cannot operate during load shedding, so the employees cannot get paid. The spaza shop that is to close its doors during blackouts because it's too dark to monitor shoplifting. The small manufacturing businesses reliant on electricity that are forced to close down as they cannot meet production targets to break even. Retailers forced to spend millions on diesel for generators who have to offset that cost by passing it on to the consumer or by reducing their workforce. Cable theft that occurs during load shedding, that it leaves entire communities without power for extended periods and costs local government hundreds of thousands of rands to replace, money that they could use for service delivery. As awful as this is, there are solutions, and there is anecdotal evidence that these solutions are viable. The Democratic Alliance, in its blueprint for government, has outlined a number of mechanisms, both short and long term, that will resolve the energy crisis. Short term, we need to be insulating our poor and vulnerable communities against the worst effects of load shedding. Load shedding relief packs, such as those recently donated by the Western Cape government to GBV shelters, can assist organizations at the coalface of societal distress to navigate through blackouts in order to protect those in their care. By extending the 75,000 rand tax rebate for the installation of private solar systems, we will not only continue to reduce daytime electricity demand, but we will convert consumers into prosumers through the Cash for Electricity initiative, which is already operational in the Western Cape. The unbundling of Eskom and privatisation of electricity generation, transmission and distribution will be a primary focus of our government. The faster that we can reduce the monopoly of this monolithic ode to centralisation of state power, the faster we will address the energy crisis. Chasing megawatts in a singular entity is clearly not enough. Mr. President, it has been exactly a year since you announced your new Minister of Electricity and your government's commitment to ending the load-shedding crisis. It has been the worst year of load-shedding in our history. So I'm here to tell you that despite the ANC's lies, South Africans are trying to remain optimistic. We want to believe in the dream of a better country for everyone. But every time the lights go out, our hope dims further and the resentment burns brighter because you and your government have failed us all. It is time for the Democratic Alliance to step in to rescue South Africa before there's nothing left to rescue. I thank you.
I thank you, Honourable Member.